Hi, I'm Kristin Davis, and I want to know, are you a Charlotte? Hello, everybody. We are just going to have a little recap of All or Nothing. It's episode 310. It aired August 13th in the year 2000. And this is a really, 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 really good episode. It's one of my all-time favorite episodes, directed by Charles McDougall, one of my favorite directors, and written by Jenny Bakes, one of my favorite writers. And in this episode, we have great people. Of course, we have Corbett is playing Aiden. We've got Kyle playing Trey. We have Franny playing Bunny. We have Josh Hamilton playing George, whom I love so much. He's a great actor, you guys. And his part's really funny. So this is the episode. The gist of this episode is that this is when Carrie has been cheating on Big. She has not confessed to any of the friends that she has been doing this. She is trying to just kind of move along with Aiden as though it didn't happen and focus on the fact that she has a wonderful boyfriend. And then she'll be walking along and she'll have these flashbacks of the sex with Big. And then she's like, oh God. And she's really, really good when she has these. Cause I mean, we've all been there, and she's, internally riddled with guilt and trying to kind of somehow muddle her way through. And she's like, I'm never doing it again. And whatnot. So let's talk about it. Basically what happens is she's got these flashbacks. We start at Samantha's new apartment in the meatpacking district. We're having this little party where one of the really funny, very time type things we're talking about is how you can have anything delivered, because Samantha says, I said, oh, did you make these, whatever we're eating? And she says, no, I had them delivered, just like the dinner and the drinks and the DVDs. And we're like, oh, you can have DVDs delivered? Like it's so much the year 2000. It really makes me laugh. So she's like, yes, you can have anything you want delivered. Yesterday I had condoms delivered. And then someone says, I hope you didn't have sex with the delivery guy. And she's like, no. Anyway, it's pretty entertaining. And she goes to the window. Samantha goes to the window, and this is her beautiful new apartment in the meatpacking district that she bought. She goes to the window and she opens the window and she kind of shouts to the meatpacking district, like, we've got it all, basically. She wakes up the next morning. She has these huge windows. The sun is shining on her face, and she is sick. Samantha is sick. We have rarely seen Samantha sick. And she goes to try to shut the curtains, and she breaks her curtain rod. It falls on her because she's kind of delirious because she's got a fever. And so then it's like breaks my heart. This whole montage breaks my heart. She starts going through her black book and calling the guys that she casually has sex with and asking them if they could come over and hang her curtain rod. And all of them say no. And it's really sad to watch. I felt really, really bad for her. And I fully relate to this because it's tough being a single gal and having stuff break around your house. And my advice is to call the handyman. I'm sure we all remember that Charlotte actually has sex with her handyman in the second season because she's so excited that he comes over and fixes something at her house. I mean, I relate to all this. I know it's probably very sexist for me to say this or whatever, but it is very relatable. And I feel really bad for Samantha. So eventually, luckily, in the episode, Samantha calls Carrie, and Carrie does go over there to take care of her. And I had fully forgotten that Samantha basically makes her make the syrup that people in Atlanta drink, which is like cold medicine, codeine, which I don't think Samantha has, and what's the drink, like Fanta or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of funny. So she has Carrie make this medicine for her, this drink, and she's like, "Give me my drink." It's pretty funny. It's a pretty funny little scene. So Carrie's over there with sick Samantha. No, wait, she confesses after the party. I forgot. So once the girls leave the party, it's just Carrie and Samantha, and Carrie decides that Samantha is the person that she should confess to because Samantha might not judge her, which of course she's right. And Samantha is a very good listener and says, I'm not going to judge you. And Carrie says, like, go ahead, judge me just a little bit. And Samantha's like, not my style. And that I thought was a really beautiful moment. And I think it's great to have a friend who's not going to judge you. I think that's important because obviously Carrie's being hard enough on herself, which Dr. Orna in our companion episode this week does say that Carrie feeling guilty is a sign of being healthily integrated in your mind to your actions. So I think that's very important that Carrie got the stamp of approval of being a healthy person from Dr. Orna. And I want all the people who hate Carrie to hear that. Because if she was really a full narcissist, she would probably not even feel guilty. That Orna didn't spit that out, but I think that's really what she was saying, is that they compartmentalize to the extent where they're not even really necessarily aware of the things that they're doing that they shouldn't be doing. So they don't even feel guilt, which is terrifying to think of. So Carrie is not that person. She's not that person at all. So she confesses to Samantha before Samantha gets sick. Samantha is a very good friend, does not judge her. And then Carrie tells Samantha it's not. So Samantha says, so you're having an affair. And Carrie says, no. It's just this one time. So you're like, because of course we all know that's not true. Then Carrie goes over there and takes care of her, which is really adorable. Then Samantha's better and comes to my engagement party. So we'll get to that in a second. So we find Charlotte in Bergdorf's. This is the scene I remember so well that I talked to someone about, Kyle, I guess. We were in Bergdorf. We had somehow hauled a big crane up there. And Charles wanted this shot, kind of an aerial tracking shot through the China department. I don't know if you guys remember in the first season, Charlotte goes out with a guy that Carrie had dated because she thinks he's the marrying type. But then she does not date him when they see some China in a window and he doesn't like the pattern that she likes. He likes a different pattern that she does not approve of. Charlotte has some very specific opinions about China patterns. So we're in Bergdorf. I'm flipping this plate over. I'm looking at it and then I'm looking at who made it. And we did it like 36 times. That's what I remember. And Kyle's there and Kyle comes over and looks at the china and says, I believe he says $1,400, which does seem insane. But apparently that is the actual price of the actual plate that I was holding, which is also like crazy. I don't think I knew at the time that I'm like flipping over a $1,400 plate in Bergdorf. I think I would have been really scared. But Trey says, he kind of makes a face and he's like, I can't afford that because we'll be eating ramen off of this based on my China debt. And Charlotte pouts. And then he's like, oh, I can't take that face. And I'm like, see, this is all because I saw Bunny do that all righty thing, where she put his hand on his arm and then he does what she wants. But it's not a good relationship situation to be pouting to get what you want. So I was like, wow, I blanked that part out. That was interesting. So Trey's like, yeah, we'll register for that. And then I say, did you do your wedding, your engagement party list? And he says, oh yeah, I almost forgot. So he gets these papers out. He hands them to me. He walks away. The China sales lady's looking at us, I think because we kiss or something. She's like disapproving or whatever, which was interesting. And then I look at the papers and I see his really, really messy handwriting, which I was also interested in. Like, I do not think that that's Kyle's handwriting, but okay. And then I look at a paper behind that and I say, what's this? And he says, oh, that's a prenup. It's just normal. Everyone in my family does one. And I look kind of shocked. And then he says, oh, just have your lawyer look over it. We cut to lunch with the girls. Who is my lawyer? Miranda Hobbs is my lawyer. She's reading over. She's like, oh, it's all standard. But Charlotte's got some big eyes. And she's like, but it's so unromantic. And basically I'm saying like, what do I do? And Miranda's saying, oh, it's just normal. A lot of people get prenups. Carrie's like, oh yeah, a lot of people get prenups. And Miranda says, this is just an opening offer. You can negotiate. And I say, but I don't want to. It's not romantic. And she says, oh, it's pretty standard. And then she goes, oh, but this is odd. He has you on a vestment thing, something like that. I'm obviously not versed in prenup language. Where if you have a boy, you get, oh, here it is. For every 5 years they're married, she gets a percentage of $500,000 over 30 years. I mean, that's lame, people. And obviously Charlotte feels the same way. And then if Charlotte were to have a boy child, she gets $100,000 free and clear. And then Carrie says, well, what does she get for a girl? And Miranda says, nada. And as Dr. Orna and I talk about, that is horrifying. And for some reason, Charlotte doesn't seem horrified enough in that scene. I don't know why. I don't know if I wanted to be horrified and they didn't want me to be horrified, or if I'm just generally upset and they didn't want me to be specifically upset about that. But it does seem really fully 100% insane that somehow he would give me $100,000 if I had a boy baby, but nothing if I had a girl baby. What the heck, man? It's just wacky. And also $500,000 over 30 years based on every 5 years. That's a horrible deal. That's a horrible deal. So I hadn't really thought about all these numbers because back at the time, I don't think I was paying attention to the numbers. I think I was so stressed by the scene that I knew was coming, where I have to try to negotiate with Bunny in the engagement party scene. And I have to say to her, I'm worth $1 million, which lives on the internet, which is, of course, a joy. But at the time, so scared, you guys, to do that scene. So scared. So weird to do a scene where you're actually saying a number, a figure of money that you're worth to marry someone. It's very, very weird. But when I watched the scene, I did really love it because I love Franny Sternhagen, who's playing Bunny. And I remember the scene because I was in such a panic. And I remember Jenny talking to me about it. I remember Charles talking to me about it. I remember Darren, I think, Michael Patrick, like so many people had a lot of ideas about how I was supposed to do it. And I feel like what they wanted was for me to be very strong. And when I watched it, I felt like I was strong because I think just to even say it is strong. But I don't know if I delivered it the way they wanted because I remember feeling at the time that I hadn't done what they wanted. But when I look back on it, I think I did fine. It's one of those ones where I'm like, see, that I was worried for no reason there. But I do really like that scene because I don't feel like we see stuff like that very, very often. And I also feel like it is, of course, showing us a lot about that family, that they would have this prenup that apparently everyone in the family signs that's kind of bonkers, right? And I do feel like Charlotte should have been worried, but I also feel like when I say I just really love him and I want to marry him, I do think that's 100% true. And also what I'd forgotten is like I go to the girls to tell them like, oh, I did it. I negotiated with Bunny and I signed the papers and they're like, great, baby. And then they don't call me baby. They say, great. And then Kyle comes and says, can I steal my bride? And I go off with him and I kiss. And I think Sarah Jessica Carrie says something like, at the end of the episode, I think she says something like, and then there were 3. I was like, oh God, it seems like I'm leaving them. I totally forgot about that, but we all know it doesn't last. So it's going to be fine, you guys. But I had a moment of panic. I'm like, don't do that, Charlotte. Don't leave them. Don't leave them into a scary family. That's not smart. That's how I felt watching it. I don't know how you guys feel watching it, but that's how I felt. Okay. Then let's go back to Samantha for a second. Did I carry everything? Yes, I did. Oh, no, I forgot. She's sick. Carrie goes over there to make her medicine for her. Samantha says some totally crazy Charlotte-like things. I didn't remember this at all. She basically says, I should have gotten married because there's no one to hang her curtain rod, right? And then Carrie's just looking at her like, who are you? And then later on, thank goodness. I mean, she does say, we are all alone, Carrie. And Carrie says, no, we're not. We have each other, which is adorable. And then luckily at the end, when Samantha feels better to come to my engagement party, and Carrie says something like, yeah, you were saying some crazy Charlotte-like things. She says, oh, yeah, I'm fine now. I had a fever. And you're like, oh, phew, well, golly, that was scary. That was scary, Samantha. So let's talk about Miranda for a second, because I had remembered that Josh was on the show. I'm a big Josh Hamilton fan, but I did not remember this part at all. So when we're at the early scene where Miranda is reading the prenup to me, this handsome lawyer walks by and he's like, oh, you're working over lunch. And she's like, yeah. And he said, oh, you sent me to this hip restaurant. And Carrie's like, hip? And looks at Miranda like, oh, you're not hip, which is also funny. And then it turns out they have a date that night. So they go on the date and then they make out in the hallway, but then the guy has to go. His character's name, his character's name is George. George has to go back to Chicago where he lives. And she says, will we do it again? Because it's all very hot and heavy in the hallway. And he says, of course, I come and go all the time. But there's also the phone. And she's like, okay. So then they start having phone sex. And it's kind of, I feel bad saying this. It's a little cliched. Okay. It's a little cliched phone sex where I had to think through like, what do people actually say? And I feel like I guess if you have never had sex with a person and then you're having phone sex first, which kind of seems odd, but I guess that might happen in life, then you might just go to kind of like the stock things that you would say, which I feel like is what they're doing. But I also feel that in the year 2000, we have probably not seen characters on television show having phone sex, right? So I'm going to give our writers a break there. But I did think like we need to be more creative in our phone sex was really what I was thinking, because they were having basically, it seems like they're having phone sex every night. And then the really entertaining thing happened, which is at one point, oh, I forgot this. At one point, Miranda's having phone sex and I call her about the prenup to tell her that Bunny's not going to negotiate. And I'm like, I'm in a panic on the other line, but she's having phone sex. She's like, Charlotte, I've got to go. And you can hear me trying to talk to her and she clicks over, right? Which is kind of funny. And then the next time we see them having phone sex, he gets another call and he clicks over and then he comes back to continue the phone sex, but he's skipped ahead in the phone sex to a part that they weren't at, which alerts her that something is off. And she's like, no, you were kissing my breast. And he's like, no, I was thrusting. And she's like, no, you weren't. We hadn't gotten to that. And then he goes, and she says, wait a minute. And she sits up. Are you having phone sex with other people? And he's like, well, Miranda, we never said that we were exclusive. Like, it's kind of entertaining. And that's the end of George. We don't get to see cute Josh Hamilton again, which is kind of sad. And apparently I read in the notes that he was in the other room. He wasn't pre-recorded. And this is something that we would very commonly do, especially in the early days. Like if we had a phone conversation that was in any way important, right? Really any phone conversation. If there was any way that the other actor could be there, we would do it that way. Because what you're left with if you don't do it that way, you would never have a pre-recorded voice of the other person because that would be weird. You would have the script supervisor read it. But of course, the script supervisor is probably a woman. They normally are. I don't know why. And they're just reading it kind of like without emotion or whatever. So it's hard to do your performance in the same way that you would do it with the actual other actor, right? So like, even if it was, I don't remember if I also was in the other room to call Miranda. I could have been, but I also could have been on another set doing another scene, right? So you're always trying to make it work out that you're free for the time that they need you to do the other off-camera, voice, which is your performance, your side of the phone performance, right? But I remember like I have an argument with Miranda coming up down the line where I say, I choose my choice. Do you guys remember that? I remember 100% she came and sat on my apartment set so that we could actually act with each other. I can't see her because I'm on the phone, right? She's like behind the wall. But, it makes a huge, huge difference in your performance for phone conversations. I don't know if everybody does that or not, but that's what we do. That's what is preferable, I think. Anyway, Carrie, let's discuss. Oh my goodness me. This is just like the height of Carrie's really intense drama, but also the height of Sarah Jessica's incredible acting. I felt like it was so real and grounded, which she always is, but just the guilt when you're just can't even hardly think straight because you feel so guilty. And of course, Aiden's just being super sweet because that's always how it is when you've done something bad to somebody. They're being super sweet because they don't even know. It's super interesting. So first we see Carrie and she's, happy and kissing Aiden. And then she's saying that she's going to go off with us. And he says, oh, what do you guys talk about? And she says, oh, we braid each other's hair. It's really funny. And then he goes, well, don't you talk about the fellas? And she's like, I guess it comes up, which I'm just laughing because, this is like the commentary about the show, right? At this point is that, we talk about men and we talk about men in the ways that people didn't used to think women talk about men, which is all very interesting. And then at some point he says something about his head of hair or whatever. I can't remember why. And then he says he's not losing any. And then apparently later in the show, we're going to see some Rogaine and there's going to be some conversation about that. So that's one of those things that the internet would be very upset with now. But we didn't have Instagram back in the olden days. So we got away with it, I guess. But she's all lovey-dovey with them is basically what I'm trying to say. Then she goes off to see us at Samantha's new apartment. And then she ends up confessing to Samantha. And then even though she wasn't supposed to see Aiden that night, she goes and knocks on his door, which was another time that I thought about the now versus the then. When we were doing, and just like that, we had a scene where Trey knocks on Carrie's door and Miranda opens it. And I personally got so many texts like, that would never happen. Why didn't Trey ring the bell down on the street? Like it's real, like in reality. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys, like sometimes someone's coming out the door and you go in the door. But now that in a New York City building, I don't know if that made sense, but like, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you don't have to use the intercom because you can just go anyway. My main point that I want to make is that now that I'm rewatching the show, I'm realizing that it happens all the time in our show. Big shows up at Carrie's and just bangs on the door. Carrie shows up at Big's with all the different outfits. You think he's buzzed her up? No. People are not prepared and people show up at their doors. It's just what we did. Because you know why? It's dead screen time to watch people buzz. Now, I do remember other scenes in Carrie's, though, because Carrie has a little intercom by her door where people would buzz. So I guess if it's something interesting, we would have them buzz. But it's not something interesting. It's dead time. We don't have time. We only have 25 minutes to do the whole show, right? So that's why we don't do it, which is the same reason why we don't hug each other every time we see each other or every time we say goodbye. There is not screen time. There's no hugging allowed. Anyway, back to this show. So Carrie ends up going back to Aiden's apartment. She comes in. He's in a sheet. He's all adorable in his like massive sheet for his naked sleeping self. And she comes in and you can tell she's just so happy that she has him and that he doesn't know the truth about what she's been doing. And it's kind of sweet. And then she's still struggling to try to get the thoughts out of her mind a big. And so she does all this organizing in her apartment, wearing the cutest, weirdest little green like jumpsuit, one of her very unique, at-home outfits. She's smoking a lot. And then she calls Big and she's like, we need to talk about what happened. And he's like, now. And he's kind of his regular dick self, if I might say. And she's like, yes, because it was just a physical thing and we're not going to be that immature and let that rule us. And he was like, we're not. And she goes, no, we can, go against those urges. And he said, well, can you really do that? And she's like, yes. Cut to them in bed together. So sad. So sad. So I was really having a lot of mixed feelings because I was on Aiden's side this whole episode. I don't know why. I guess it just depends on the episode whose side I'm on. But they sleep together again. And then Aiden's been out of town. I left that out. He had to take a chair to someone in Pennsylvania, which I'm like, wait. And just like that, I think he goes to Virginia, which is where he lives. But in this time, he has to go to Pennsylvania in the truck. It's all very, Aiden has a lot of similar through lines. So Aiden comes back and she's like, oh, I missed you so much. And there's no sheets on the bed because they smelled like Big, but Big had said he could smell Aiden on the sheets. And she's so worried that Aiden's going to smell Big on the sheets. So she's taking the sheets off. And then, Samantha weirdly had said to Carrie in the first scene, if Aiden hasn't said, I love you yet, then you're a free agent. And I thought that was so odd because why does Samantha care what the guy is going to say? Shouldn't it be up to the woman if she's a free agent or not? I thought that was really interesting. So then Aiden comes back and he says, Carrie, I was thinking about something while I was gone. I love you. And you can see Carrie just like panicked. Oh God, apparently now I'm not a free agent now. And then she of course tells him that she loves him back. And then, this was so scary. It's like maybe the next morning and the phone rings and Aiden, proving he's so smart, is filling in the password, the crossword for her, which is like so impressive because there's this whole through line with the crossword puzzle. I don't know if you guys remember where Carrie walks down the street and she sees Big on the street and he's trying to do the crossword and she leans over and tells him a word in the crossword. And he looks up at her like, well, I didn't know you were so smart, which of course he should have known because she's a writer. So in this particular scene, Carrie's doing the crossword puzzle And Aiden leans over and says, emu. And she says, what? And he says, exotic animal, 4 down, emu. And she goes, oh, well, I would have gotten that. And he said, no, you wouldn't, because you have this word over here and it's wrong. And I'm like, Aiden, awesome job. Then the phone rings. She picks it up. It's big. He's like, I need to see you. And she's like, oh, hey, Miranda. And, tries to carry it off. And he says, I'm downstairs and I'm coming out. I'm coming up if you don't come out. And I'm like, what a jerk, So then Carrie's got Aiden upstairs and Big is downstairs on the street. And we've already seen that he's willing to just show up, right? So she goes down there and she says she has to walk the dog, Pete. And you know what's coming, you guys. This is one of the most terrifying storylines in the whole show, I think. She takes Pete, the adorable, innocent dog, down with her. Big's down there wearing the weirdest, Hawaiian shirt. I don't even understand what's happening with that shirt. And they're in the beautiful village in the spring. It's gorgeous. Carrie's wearing her adorable gym shorts and her red slides, heels. And Big is like, I'm telling my wife tonight. And she's like, no, don't do that. She gets really mad. And she kind of gestures with her hands. And then she looks down and Pete's not there. He's run away, you guys. The anxiety I have watching this scene, I cannot live through it because I couldn't remember what happened to Pete. I was like, is Pete going to be okay? He's running through the West Village with all the cars and all the people. And he's running full tilt. Right? So when she realizes he's gone, she runs in the heels and they track along with her. The most gorgeous shots, the trees are blooming. It's just gorgeous, but it's also terrifying because the dog is running through the traffic and Big is running and huffing and puffing after her. And I was like, Big needs to work out more. That's what I was thinking. And then Carrie, of course, because Sarah Jessica is a pro, she is running in those heels like nobody's business. And I'm just so happy she didn't break an ankle because there's not even an ankle strap on the shoes, right? They're just slides and she's running. But this is who the woman is, guys. She really does this. It's impressive. So she runs for 3 hours. She never calls Aiden, who's at her house, because she doesn't have a cell phone and because she can't find his dog. She thinks she's lost his dog forever. Can you imagine? Oh my God, I was dying. Then it starts to rain and she's wet and her shirt is fully see-through, which I did not remember, you guys. And this was in our peasant shirt phase. She bought me some peasant shirts. We wore a lot of peasant shirts this one summer. And her shirt and her bra are see-through. And I'm like, does Sarah Jessica know that thing happened? Because I don't know if she knows, but I felt some anxiety about that. But mostly I was really anxious about Pete. She goes home in total defeat. And thank God Pete is there, you guys. He's at the apartment. He found his way home. What a relief. And then Aiden says, basically, I can tell that you're cheating. And she sits down and she looks crushed, like she's going to have to actually tell him. But what it is that he thinks she's been smoking cigarettes. And so he says, you've been smoking, haven't you? And she's like, uh-huh. And the voiceover says something like, it was true. And it was true. Of course, it's not the whole truth, but it was in fact true. So then she gets away with it, but not for long, as we all know. But it's so good. It's so good. I mean, I can't even live through watching that dog run through the village, though. I can't even watch it. It's just really stressful, but just so good. Just so incredibly good. Oh, my gosh. Oh, should we read her really excellent voiceover in the beginning? It's so good. I mean, this is one of those episodes where we were really, I think cheating is just fascinating. And as Dr. Orna says, there's so many different reasons that people cheat and different things, why they might cheat or what they might be trying to express. But I mean, it's endlessly fascinating to me why people cheat and whether they tell or don't tell. And, it's fascinating. So this is Carrie's initial, thought for her column. Since birth, modern women have been told that they can do and be anything we want, be an astronaut, the head of an internet company, a stay-at-home mom. There aren't any rules anymore, and the choices are endless. And apparently, they can all be delivered right to your door. But is it possible that we've gotten so spoiled by choices that we become unable to make one? That part of us knows that once you choose something, one man, one great apartment, one amazing job, another option goes away? Are we a generation of women who can't choose just one from column A? Did we all have too much to handle, or was Samantha right? Can we have it all? And I say, no, we can't have it all. But I think we can have it all just at different times. I think it's not possible to have it all at once. That's what I think. That's what I think we need to understand and give ourselves a break about. Like, you're doing one thing now and you can do something else in the future. Or maybe you used to be focused on one thing, but then you can change your focus to a different thing. But I do think it's hard to focus on everything at once because there's only so much time and energy, and something's going to suffer. That's what I think. I hope that's not a downer. That's like Kristin, not Charlotte, obviously. But it's a really good episode. I hope you guys enjoy it. Let me know your thoughts on Instagram if you want to. And thanks for joining us. Bye.